got lowline cattle, and they're known for their nature, and you're bringing in town students.
Yep.
Tell me about that.
Well, this is largely stems from the way lowlines are treated in Australia, which is the birthplace, the home of lowlines. And a lot of schools over there actually have their own lowline studs. And that's where I was first introduced to this concept of school children handling cattle, growing up with these cattle, breaking them in, taking them to shows, and going into on from that to become cattle judges and handlers and run their own studs. So we approached Rangiora High and were very well received. And so we started off as a trial some years ago now with just a handful of students who came out here, and it was a learning experience for both of us because I wasn't too sure how this... My wife said, now, you are really looking for trouble. You're taking somebody else's kids with cattle into a public arena. This is going to be rather like herding cats, isn't it, you know?
Osh springs to mind.
Oh, it does indeed. And it is very much a thing we have to do. We start... Each year we start with them with not a fully new group now, because we've got some that have been there from the third form or
whatever it is now,
third form, fourth form, fifth form, and they're just passing on. But the group keeps getting refreshed from the bottom. But in the early days, they were all pretty new to it. And as I said to the kids, I always say, now, they may look small, they're only little, but it'll actually weigh more than you, it's faster than you, and it's stronger than you. Never forget it. Unless you've got that animal trusting you, you're always going to have a problem. And this is what we do. We just take the animal into the crush, and they stand there with a kid on each side, talking and patting to them. That's the first day, just that. Then rubbing them down with a brush. Next day we might put a halter on it and tie it in the crush with a halter on, so it gets used to that. And then we'll take it out there, and the kids are standing at the fence with the animal. And then gradually they'll start walking them around in those yards there, and then eventually it's out into a paddock. That's always a big moment for everybody. And eventually they're taking them to shows and handling them. So.
And these are town children?
Most of them are. Some of them are off lifestyles. We had one or two in the first year that were actually genuine country kids. But most of them are town-based. It's surprising how popular it is with the town-based ones. But having said that, two of our girls have gone on to go into studs of their own and are showing on their own account now. Neither of them had any association with cattle. One had ridden ponies before, so it wasn't unused to bigger animals, but it had no association with cattle till they came here. Now they're running their own studs. The other thing is that they've learnt that there is a future in it, at least in the short term. We've had ones from here have won trips to Sydney Royal Show. Last year there were two of the girls of our team, one who'd won the trip at Canterbury, and her sister both went to Future Beef and Fielding and were leading cattle up there. Another girl has been across to Rockhampton to Beef Week in Rocky in Queensland, which is the second biggest cattle exposition in the world. There's one bigger in the States. And this year another lass is off to Echo, to the Royal Brisbane Show. And it's all just through doing what they do here. They also get the competition in the team handlers at Canterbury. Rangiora last year was first and third in the team's competition for handling. And they rather like doing that, and yeah, it's great to watch them develop. And we've got some who are definite town girls who are just smitten with the idea of breeding cattle. And as long as you get that grounding right, they learn very quickly, and they touch wood. None of them have actually lost respect for the animal. Well, you know, they're always wary.
They'll be spoken to pretty quickly if they do.
Oh, they do. And it is an OSH thing we've got to be aware of all the time. But it's like they've got to bring boots. They're not allowed sand shoes or any light footwear in the yards with the animals, that sort of thing. But they have got to, or have come to, actually respect the animals and get that bond with an animal. And very quickly now they're sort of picking out their own one from the starters, as it were, and they'll take them through. And I mean, the big bull in there is Rising 4, and he's got the same lass who's in this group as right with him, and she actually has had photographs taken of us sitting astride him, riding him. Not over hurdles, I might add, but no, just sitting astride him while he's in the pen.
Gillian, you've been doing this with students now for quite some time.
7 or 8 years at Rangiora High, yes.
It's a pretty new concept, even though it's been going for 8 years.
At the start there were about 3 high schools involved, us and Boys High and Girls High combined, but now there's quite a few coming on. We have about 8 schools competing every year, and it's getting tougher and tougher each year as they get more and more experienced.
It must be really rewarding for you as a teacher to watch them blossom.
Our girls in the rural area, a lot of them just sit back sometimes and let the boys take command, but with this it lets the girls come out and shine because they can actually see they can handle the animals and they're doing a good job at it.
And they thoroughly enjoy it. You can't get enough for them coming out here.
They're out here every week, twice a week, having a great time.
Rewarding for them, obviously.
Yeah, it's very rewarding for them because they get to actually mature with as far as relating with other people go. They get confidence in public speaking, and they stand in front of all the adults that are watching the competition on the Friday and judge animals and say why they've rated them how they have.
It's very important for a young student to actually be a show person and actually being able to speak off the cuff in front of a whole lot of people who are strangers.
Yes, and at the very start they find it hard, but they get a lot of training by Phil and Kay, and they come down here every week and they actually show them how to do all that sort of stuff. But on the day, it's still quite daunting for some of them, but they do a great job trying and they do really well.
You're one very proud teacher.
Yes, I've actually watched it grow over the last 7 or 8 years, and at the start we weren't too sure, the kids weren't too sure, but now they're all knocking down the door every year asking when we're starting, so they're keen as mustard.